We're live. We're live. Yo, thank you guys for tuning in. Figured a little Friday afternoon stream, because why not? GameStop decides to go up 30% today. Might as well talk about it, right? Not the best angle here. Maybe a little bit of this would be better. Let's see. It's so nice out. I was like, all right, that's it. Like, I gotta chill outside. But, well, there we go. What else can I use? Hey, okay. There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. Wait a minute. Wait a damn minute. Okay. Science. Hope everyone had a great week. Just figured, talk some GameStop, right? Why not? I like the stock. I'm feeling bullish. I think a lot of people are, right? But let me just start this out by saying it's always good to temper expectations. Enjoy your weekend. Don't think too hard about next week. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna think about it a little bit, right? Like what's happening with GameStop, what's going on, right? But you never truly know. That's what I've learned these past few years holding the stock. You don't know what's going to happen. So you don't want to think too hard about it. You don't want to think, oh, it's going to be all this, it's going to be all that. And to answer the question that I have, it's like it's up 30% and up 48% since the open of trading yesterday. So in 2 trading sessions, the stock goes up 48%. Surely there must be news, right? Surely there must be an earnings report. There must be something that's clearly a reason as to why this happened. But no. We haven't had something like this happen in a while with the stock, but it's just the way she goes, right? Like, it's constantly out of nowhere, right? Just every single time you think like, these price cycles are done or this weird price action's gone, we haven't seen it in months, nothing's happening. Boom, out of nowhere, Thursday, Friday, up 48%, touches, I think, like 17 and change at the high of today. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. The truth is, nobody knows why this stock is performing the way it is. Like, I mean, there's lots of speculation, but I'm just saying, if you act like, why is it up 48% today? There's no concrete reason. Whenever you see any other stock, generally speaking, there's always, okay, well, it's this news article recently came out. It's trending a lot. You know, of course, I guarantee you CNBC is going to say, oh, the meme stock investors, they're back at it again. They're all piling into GameStop. They decided to perfectly orchestrate it in this exact moment. But what they don't understand is there's lots of individuals out there that just buy and hold the stock. They just dollar cost average. They just continue to buy, buy and hold, focus on the long term. I'm not saying that everyone necessarily does that. I'm sure there's definitely traders out there. I know there's definitely traders out there, but I'm just saying, it's not that all of a sudden tons of people just right today, like individual investors, like, you know what? Friday, May 3rd, 2024, what a great day to all buy GameStop at the same time. And that's how the media is going to spin it, right? I mean, you shouldn't be surprised. But it's just crazy and it's so unexplained, and I just love this story and I love this journey that it just keeps going, right? And it's just more to learn, more to see, more to understand. And some people are like, oh, GameStop's so done. I'm like, but you didn't read the numbers, number one. Number two, I understand it's not the investment for everyone. It's not this big flashy thing like, oh, they have this amazing new product, this AI that's going to be revolutionary. That's not what it is. And I think any long-term investor, of course, I can only speak for myself, every individual is different, but I don't think the average long-term investor is out here saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm buying GameStop because I think they're going to do something extremely innovative tomorrow. No, I think they see it as a deep value play, and then also just what's happened around it and what it is just so much greater than any other individual stock, in my personal opinion. And again, I understand it's not for everyone, and people say, oh, you know, it's a dying company, oh my god. No, read the numbers. They're profitable on the bottom line now. Yes, it's unfortunate they closed some stores, and yes, they've had to make adjustments, and yes, things have maybe taken longer than anticipated, but they have a strong balance sheet. If they're turning a profit, there's literally no chance of them going bankrupt anytime soon. Things would have to dramatically change for them to go bankrupt. But then you think, okay, well, why do we have the price action we have? The truth is, nobody knows in the short term, right? In hindsight, okay, well, that's probably why that was happening. Maybe there's an insider buying in some shape or form. I thought I saw a thing, though, that we're in like a lockup period where people can't buy right now. And what's up, Jay? Thanks for popping in. Let me hear you guys in the chat. Say hello. You know, a little Friday afternoon action. I think I might have to do some more streams on Friday afternoon because I got a little earlier on Friday on work most of the time. So maybe a little bit of this, you know, that's getting nicer. I like to just chill outside, Vibington City, you know what I mean? Got my bullish cup, feeling bullish. But just get ready. The mainstream media, I like to call it CNBC specifically because it's a clown show over there, is going to be like, oh, suddenly these retail investors, they're all in GameStop stock again. You have no idea. It's crazy. And then, you'll have the haters. All of a sudden they're quiet. And then GameStop will start going down. I told you this was going to happen. I told you it happens every time. Tetron's shilling GameStop. All he does is shill GameStop. Like, it just makes me laugh, right? It really makes me laugh. And I genuinely just enjoy this journey so, so much. Like, it's just epic. It truly is just epic. It's one of a kind. Is there any other stock that you've seen have this kind of group of individuals that like the stock, shop the company, and then on top of it, the stock has all these crazy price fluctuations out of nowhere, and nobody can explain them, and it just keeps happening, right? It just keeps happening. Every time I was sitting, just when I was getting started with the stream about like 5 minutes ago, every time you think like, all right, I guess the price cycles are done, like it's just gonna kind of be flat for a while, boom, out of nowhere, right? It just goes up. Like, what is going on right now? Yes, I mean, I've seen some people tweeting at it. It has to do with the options chain. Some people, oh, this was definitely gonna happen because of the options chain, blah blah, whatever. What I'm trying to say is, yes, exactly. There's no news. I think Ryan couldn't buy. Today's a beautiful day. It's possible, Lena, and thank you for being here. Appreciate you popping in. It's certainly possible that there's an insider buying or something to that effect, but on the surface, right, there's no news. And generally speaking, when an insider buys, it should not make a stock move 48%. I understand when Ryan Cohen buys, that typically moves the stock pretty significantly, but not 48%. And again, just in general, unless he all of a sudden decided to buy like another 8% of the company, because he owns a little over 12.1%, I believe, at this exact moment in time, when I'm recording this at least. If it was more like, he bought 8%, like this is a little bit more explainable. But even if he buys just a smaller amount, even just another whole 1% of all shares outstanding, it shouldn't move the stock price like this. Some people are talking about the CAT changes that are coming out. I'm forgetting the acronym off the top of my head, and actually I'm trying to learn more about that. I've been kind of seeing it pop up here and there. I've been looking into it a little bit, but I'm trying to find some good resources. So definitely DM me on Twitter if you have any good resources to research on that. And I also saw recently the DTC basically did haircuts, essentially saying any crypto investment can't be used as collateral for any kind of loans, something to that effect. So some people are speculating that has to do with it in some shape or form. And again, it's all possible. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Temper your expectations. Don't expect next week to be this crazy week. If it is, fantastic, great. I'll do more streams. I'll get more excited. But if it's not, back to Zen, right? Just liking the stock, shopping the company, and focusing on the long term, because that's what you should do if you're an investor. If you're a trader, yeah, maybe you're going to be stressing about next week going into the week. Like a friend of mine, he's wild. He just bought a ton of GameStop on margin at 13, and I was like, bro, I'm not so sure you do that. Of course, I'm not going to give you financial advice, but just so you know, and he's more of a trading type of guy. So, he's going to do his thing, right? And some of my friends are wild. That's just how it goes, right? Not everyone's the same in every friend group. So I'm like, bro, I'm just telling you, like, anything can happen with this company in the short term. I believe in the long term, but just be aware. And, sure enough, it dropped from 13 down to 10. All of a sudden today, he's like, let's go, it's up. And I think he sold at like 15 and change. And then in the afternoon, he's like, no, I literally should have kept holding. And I'm like, bro, I told you, this thing's an absolute roller coaster. If you're not in the long term, you got to be like mentally ready for it, right? And again, those of you that know me, typically watch Tetron, know I'm not really a big trader. Maybe I'll place the occasional trade. Generally, a longer term swing is kind of my personal way to go about it, but I don't trade GameStop. I just buy and hold. That's how I roll. Everyone could roll in their own way. That's totally fine. Everyone's going to do their own thing. But the truth is, nobody knows why this is taking place, right? Why is all of a sudden the stock go up like this? And when I say nobody knows, like obviously there's data and information you could look at, but it's nobody knows in the sense, it's not like there's this news article you can point to, or they had this great earnings report. Like I was telling a coworker about it today. I'm like, he's like, yeah, so what happened? I'm like, nothing. He's like, what do you mean nothing? And I've never really talked to him about GameStop before. And he was like, so was there like an earnings report coming or something like that? I'm like, no. He's like, then why? I'm like, exactly. It doesn't make any sense, right? If you just think about it at an extremely base level, like it doesn't make any sense. And I'm trying to get the chat here, make sure I don't miss anything from you guys. I really do appreciate you guys popping in. Again, I think maybe do like every Friday stream, weekly recap of the markets. We've seen like these tech giants just come out with these huge share buyback programs, right? And we've seen Meta. We've also seen, was it Google do dividends for the first time? Is it Google did dividends for the first time? Yeah, I forget. But basically, all of them now are really focusing on delivering shareholder value. And I ultimately think that's what GameStop's building up towards. And the more and more I think about it, I used to debate like what would be better for them to ultimately do, dividends or share buybacks. And before they can even do that, I do think they need to be even more profitable than they are now. Now they've just got to the point where they are profitable, but they have to put in more work to grow more and get to that next level. However, with that being said, I would think, okay, well, dividends or share buybacks, and I would run like the poll, right? I ran the poll on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw a little while back, or X, whatever you call it these days. People were like half and half on that. I thought that was pretty interesting. And the more I think about it, I'm like, it makes more sense to use the cash as of now to accumulate interest, number one, and then number two, seek an acquisition of some kind or acquire something. Look at this spider. Where is this? What spider? I don't know. Something flying around there, but he's popping in here about GameStop. I respect it, but I think they have to just use their cash in an efficient way. And I understand some people are like, oh, they haven't done anything. It's been 3 years. They're just being patient for the right opportunity. And again, I understand that's not for everybody, right? Some people just say, well, I'm not ready to be patient. That's not what I want. That's fine. And to me, the biggest like loss, I guess you can say, I'm experiencing is opportunity costs. And for those of you who aren't familiar, opportunity costs is essentially not what you have, like not the amount the stock moves, but also accounting for what you could have invested in, right? Like base opportunity cost would be like, if I just left my money in a money market account or a high yield savings over the past 2 years instead of investing in GME, yes, it would be worth more. But what I understand as a whole and how I personally look at it, of course, again, everyone can look at it in their own way. If you're in it for the long term and it's going to make giant price fluctuations like this, how are you going to know when to get in it if you do want to be in the long term? So that's, I guess the risk you're taking with it, so to speak. You're missing out on that opportunity cost. But I also understand this is the type of investment, the type of company that out of nowhere, everything might just start clicking, right? And again, next week, who knows? It could double. It could just steadily decline. I think it's honestly kind of likely one of those. It could be a mix. It could just be a flatline week. Who knows, right? And I'm going to speculate on it, but I'm not here to tell you like, oh, I'm telling you like next week we're doubling up. Oh, next week the stock's getting cut in half. No, I'm telling you it's going to be volatile and you have to just expect everything. And if you're a trader, plan accordingly. If you're an investor, take a deep breath, namaste, and you just hang on. And that's how it goes with investing, in my opinion, right? And to me, I just see investing and trading as two different things. Like, yes, it's all stocks and money movements and different perspectives, but I really think it's investing. You can put the average individual in one of two buckets, trading or investing. And some people do both. And personally, I found investing is the way to go for me, where I just dollar cost average any position I want to accumulate. I just buy and hold. And that's just how I rock and roll. Let's see. What do you make of, why does the chat keep going away? Oh, the person who entered the millions worth of calls knows. Albert, that is true. That would be very true. Yeah, that's a good point, because I did see some people saying that there was a lot of call buying, but at the same time, you have to remember when you look at the flow, right? I only have a base understanding of the flow, so take this with a grain of salt. But when there's options flow, there's someone buying the calls and selling the calls. If there's a lot of puts, someone's buying the puts and someone's selling the puts. So there's always two parties, right? And you have to just kind of always take that into account. But I think whoever's buying the calls is like, yeah. And I also looked up max pain, which I haven't for a while with GameStop. Max pain, for those of you who aren't familiar, is the most amount of options that will expire worthless. So this week's max pain number for GameStop was, I believe, I just looked, it was $11, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But it was $11 a share. So that means tons of calls expired in the money this week, which theoretically will mean there'll need to be shares bought to cover those if it's T+2 for next week, if they were sold naked, right? Which we know market makers can do that. They do have that capability. Oh yeah, they need the liquidity, blah, blah, blah. And that's also where some people talk about the CAT system, updating it where it's clearing, automated trading. I forget exactly. And again, for those of you that weren't here before, I was just saying how I need to learn more about this update that's supposed to be going to be put in place in about 4 weeks or so. So I'm definitely trying to look into that. But again, just if you're a long-term investor, just breathe, namaste, because you never know what's going to happen in the short term. That's just the reality of it. That's what I've learned over time. What do you make of Jimmy having a 10 a.m. annual meeting such call instead of after hours? Any precedent? Coffee Donuts to Homer. Thanks for being here. Honestly, I don't think too much of it. I think it's not something you want to look into too much. I think I'm breathing. I like that, Marantz. Thanks for being here, man. You got to remember to breathe sometimes. It's tough. Sometimes I'm talking like this, blah, 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 and I'm like, breathing that fresh air, right? But yeah, I don't think too hard about that in terms of the time of the meeting. I don't think it really means too much, honestly. That's my personal opinion. Of course, I could be wrong. But, again, for those of you who haven't heard the story in the past, I used to trade a lot of stuff, right? And I'm 23 right now, about to turn 24. And don't get me wrong, I still have a lot more to learn. And that's why I make this channel. It's my investment journey, showing you guys how I'm growing as an individual. And hopefully other people can grow alongside me in their own shape and form. But having said that, I started messing with stocks and crypto, all this stuff, when I was 16, right? Like complete naive 16-year-old. I'm like, I got to make money. I got to figure this out, right? So I start doing that. I literally opened an account. I think my first ever brokerage was Scott Trade. I don't know if you guys remember that one. It's completely gone at this point. Scott Trade ultimately got acquired by TD Ameritrade, and now TD Ameritrade has ultimately got acquired by Charles Schwab. And it's just, the brokerages are kind of like the banks, where they just kind of keep merging together until one day we're going to have Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Fargo, Chase. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like they all keep merging, right? But anyways, I used to try and always find the next big play, buy into this, buy into that. Oh, I'm a trader. Oh, I'm an options guy. Oh, I'm going to try selling options. I'm going to try, four-leg option strategies, all these different things, right? And I was very fortunate because it did not work out for me, but I was very fortunate that I was just a broke high school kid in early college when I was in that stage. By the time I was getting to second half of college, I would say, probably about 20 is where I really wisened up and understood, like, okay, yes, there's money to be made trading, but like you really, really, really have to follow this. And it's a lot more difficult, in my opinion, at least, to do that. If you have a long-term viewpoint, that's where you can just focus on the numbers and what the company itself is doing. And that's really how I've evolved over time. And I'm very, very fortunate, right? Because if I went from 16 to 23, right? That's 7 years. So I have 7 years of experience right now. And I'm very fortunate to have that experience for being an individual that's 23 years old, about to go to 24. But imagine I had started now. I have a full paycheck now, whereas when I was 16, 17, 18, I didn't have that. So I wasn't able to lose a lot of money, right? So I'm in a point right now where I understand what it means to build wealth and understand that you can't just put a ton of money into something and just because it's the next big play or the next big trade, right? So that's my journey, at least, of how I went out of trading to ultimately just become an investor. Because I also look at it as I was reading about Bitcoin during my first cycle, right, of following it at 2018, I think it was, that spike, 2017, 2018. I was a senior in high school and I was talking about it with friends and they're like, what is this shit? I don't even know. It's like magic internet money or something like that. And I was like, I'm telling you, I think it could be big. Like, it's pretty interesting. But all I did was trade it. But imagine I just bought and held Bitcoin from that point until now. I'd be doing pretty good, right? And there's a lot of things like that where I look, and I even had Tesla. Like, I traded Tesla at that time. If I just buy and held Tesla, look where I'd be now. And that's not to say every single thing I was trading would be worth more now. I'm definitely not saying that. But I'm just saying I understand that you can be involved in something and you believe in it, and then it doesn't work out in a couple days, a couple weeks, or even a couple years. And you pull out, but if you have a long-term viewpoint, that just doesn't align with that. So when you have a long-term viewpoint, you can just buy and hold and breathe easy because you've done your due diligence, you've done your research, and you know what you're investing in. And people are going to doubt you, and people are going to comment, oh, you're such an idiot investing in GameStop. How do you still like this stock? Blah, blah, blah. And I hear it as blah, 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 or like, right? Because I know what I hold, and I understand. Again, I understand it's not the investment for everyone. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's all right. And I just like the stock. I like documenting my journey as an investor of GameStop and just learning finance as a whole, building wealth, and that's just me. And let the haters keep hating. What they don't realize is every single time they engage on one of my tweets or my videos, you're just helping me grow. So I thank you for that. So that's why I welcome the Bulls. I welcome the Bears. You're all helping me grow. You're helping grow Tetron, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. And the truth is, anybody that's taking time to write negative comments on the internet, most of the time they don't feel very good about themselves. They have something that's bothering them in some shape or form that they feel the need to spend the time and energy to just spread negativity. And maybe that sounds a little corny, but I really think it's true because I don't go around talking negatively about things I don't like. Yes, I'll point out BS when I see it, in which when AMC and GME was being correlated when they're clearly not the same thing. Yes, I'm going to call that out because I've been there where I've been the naive investor, like, oh yeah, like a lot of people are talking about this, it must be good. So that's why I want to keep it real too and be like, no, that's not the case here. Like, please look at the information. But I'm not going to go out of my way to just write negatively on every single AMC tweet I see. So there's a balance, right? And again, that's just my take. You're always welcome to disagree. Sorry, chat keeps disappearing here on the side. I'm on an iPad today. Oh my goodness, almost knocked it down too. But yeah, I usually don't stream on the iPad, but here we are. Let's see. I'm breathing. I love it. Why do you think GME didn't purchase Bitcoin when it was down? Do you think they'll be investing in some funds into crypto or other equities? Michael, great question. I hope every shareholder voted. I would love to see MSTR type of move. And Alina, I hope so too. Don't forget to vote, guys. Just so you know, the board of directors recommends voting no on proposal 4. That's just what the board of directors says. That's all I'm saying. But oh my god, the check keeps disappearing. I gotta get on my phone. That'd be way easier. Let's do that. Let's make sure this is stand up. But yeah, to answer your question, Michael, about why don't they? Oh my god, I need to do a better stand because the regular iPad case with the stand, it's just like not working out good. Okay, so to answer your question, Michael, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to the idea of them buying Bitcoin, right? But I understand that's not everyone's cup of tea, and that maybe would scare some investors. If they did ultimately go about it, I would want to see them purchase in a smaller form, right? Like maybe 10% or less of cash reserves. Because I personally believe in Bitcoin. I think it's a great store of value. Nobody can control it. You see what's happening with the dollar. You see what's happening in a lot of currencies around the world. You see inflation continuing to range on. People talking about stagflation now. So I'm not opposed to the move, but I already own Bitcoin and I know why I believe in Bitcoin. And some GameStop investors might not be too fond of Bitcoin. So that's where I kind of go back and forth on, or I'm like, I don't know about that. And wouldn't want that to hurt like the overall investor base, so to speak. Let's see. I hope every shareholder voted. Exactly. Lena, how did you vote? I never seen email going to Fidelity. I voted on Computer Share. Exactly. Yeah, I haven't seen it on Fidelity yet either, or any other brokerage out there. But I've seen Computer Share. It's already available. You log in. It says it's time to vote. You click vote. You could vote for all the board of directors, the accounting firms to approve that you believe in them to do the accounting and review for the company and their auditing. That's the word. I forgot the third one off the top of my head, but the fourth one is, oh, we need diversity and inclusion in the company, right? And listen, you can disagree. I think it's a complete smokescreen to just put a board of director in that's going to make negative decisions to just bankrupt the company or just try and drive them into the ground. We saw that with BCG in the past. We've seen it with a lot of other companies. Now that I'm learning how things truly work with board of directors, and I think that's what this is. That's my opinion. Again, you're welcome to disagree. Fact. GameStop haters own GME just in case. Ryan, maybe they gotta hedge their bets, right? That'd be funny. But just like it's funny to me how on a big day though, suddenly they're so quiet, right? Got nothing to say. We were so negative just 3 days ago. Why are you not negative now? You should be thinking it's gonna fall right back down if it went so much, right? Let's see, fact. GameStop haters own shares of GME just in case. Mr. LOLs, Jay, thanks for being here. Hope you caught my video about the New York City controller, my phone call them. Yes, Marantz. I caught the beginning. I still have to finish it. I got to be honest. I still have to finish it. But you brought up the great point right off the bat. They have 900 billion under management, or maybe it was one of your shorter videos, 900 billion under management and only like 4 million worth of GameStop. But yet they care so much to make this proposal. It just makes absolutely no sense. I heard Ryan Cohen interview that GameStop's invested in partner with Ripple XRP. Alina, I'm not so sure about that. That would be definitely interesting to hear about, but I'm not so sure how I feel about Ripple either. And honestly, I'd have to learn more before I had to make a full conclusion on it, though. Saying you're saying about GameStop's ridiculous, we all know simple, flat out lying about Ripple. Damn. Rant's word, not mine, but Shy Guy for the win. I have 4K shares and I have no idea how to vote. Shy Guy, if you're in ComputerShare, you just got to log in. It's going to say on the bottom left, vote now, and then you're going to click that, and it's going to walk you through it. If it's with your brokerage, it should not have come in yet, so don't worry. Just keep an eye out for it. But apart from the people to vote for, at least one should be no. Don't want private equity. Exactly, Anita, exactly. I know, but how? I have to go to the mail something in. Can you elaborate on how board of directors really works? Curious to hear your thoughts. Michael, thank you for being here. So, board of directors ultimately, drive decisions for the company. They oversee everything as a whole. They have these meetings to make ultimate decisions on how the company functions. It's really the CEO, which, by the way, Ryan Cohen is also the CEO as well as chairman of the board. So he's able to really implement these ideas from the top down. But they're pretty much the top of the company, overviewing everything as a whole. And if you look at GameStop's current board of directors, they're all pretty much longtime associates of Ryan Cohen from his time with Chewy. And they've known him for a long time, and they've all known each other. So if you also look at the board of directors prior to January 2021, it was entirely different list of individuals. And there were some that had association with the Boston Consulting Group. And if you look at a lot of information out there and a lot of historical stuff that has happened, a lot of companies that have Boston Consulting Group consultants, right? That business consultants that were paid massive amounts of money from the company to be put in and make poor decisions. An example was that I read about a while back was Toys R Us had a BCG member in there, and ultimately the board of directors decided they didn't want to sell the Wii. And at that time, the Wii was the hot popular product, and they decided they didn't want to sell the Wii. It was a move that made no sense. So it's small stuff like that where, yes, it's not going to bankrupt them overnight, but just poor decisions over time. And then also oh, well, we need to spend more money. Another example would be GameStop used to have a private jet for the board of directors. Is that really necessary? It's not Apple. They're not going to all these world conferences, right? And even then, do they really need a private jet? So it's just stuff like that where they just overspend, spend on just unnecessary things. And they say to the company, oh, well, you can write it off. You're not going to have to pay taxes because it's more expenses, right? But over time, it just drives them to the ground. And then if any hardship happens, they don't have a strong balance sheet and they go under. And there's been a lot of examples of this, whether it be Toys R Us and, not saying that maybe some of these companies, maybe some of them would have went bankrupt anyway, but it's just they accelerate the downwards move, or maybe they kind of shift things in a way to start the move downward. And it's things like that. And again, it's not an overnight thing, but that's just how I see it in terms of what goes on with the board of directors and why this proposal for situation, or is it proposition, proposal, whatever, same thing. But yeah, exactly. Marantz, great example right there. Bed Bath & Beyond did continuous share buybacks. On the surface, it seemed like, oh, wow, they're doing $1 billion worth of share buybacks. That's crazy. But you know what happened? They spent $1 billion on buying back shares. And you know how much cash they had? $1 billion. So they had no cash left over. And they ultimately went bankrupt with over $5 billion in debt. So had they had not bought back all those shares and they started to close more stores, they went to more of an online brand, maybe they shift their business in some way or another, maybe they'd still be here today, right? And yes, now you can buy from Bed Bath & Beyond online, but Overstock.com basically just bought the name Bed Bath & Beyond online just because Bed Bath & Beyond's a long time name. But that's a great example of a company that was driven into the ground with poor decision making. Because yes, they were already struggling, but maybe they could have turned it around if they didn't spend all of their cash on share buybacks, right? And that's also a reason as to why GameStop shouldn't just buy back shares at this exact point in time. Maybe it's something they consider down the line. But then also another aspect of it is there's a lot of different things that go on with the shares, right? Where it's how would that really work? And again, everyone's gonna have their own opinion. And when you look at what's happening with the shares and just the underlying of the company, nobody can truly explain why we just have a random 50% move on no news, no earnings report. The mainstream media can't even pin it on, oh, Ryan Cohen tweeted an ice cream cone. That's why all the retail investors are in. They can't even say that. Right? And again, I just love this journey, guys. I really just love this journey. I love talking about GameStop. I love learning more and more about investing and building wealth. And honestly, I'm not scared to say it. My ultimate goal is to be rich, and not just rich monetarily. I want to be rich physically, mentally, spiritually, like however you want to look at it, right? And just build myself up to the best I can be and just make life comfortable for those around me that I really love and care about. So that's important to me. I understand that there's like this perception of like, oh, all rich people are bad. No, that's not true. That's just not true. There are a lot of people who become rich and wealthy who build themselves up from nothing. And I read a book a long time ago called The Power of Broke. It's by Damon John, the guy from Shark Tank. And the concept of the book is essentially that is your greatest strength or asset in the sense if you have the mindset of broke, you're not it's not the like there's a difference between like poor and broke. Like broke is a mindset, but like you can make it a good mindset. Essentially, the like just to get to the concept of the book is that that's your greatest asset because if you're broke, you're like, okay, well, I can't go buy that unnecessary thing I don't need. I can't go just spend money on food each day because I don't feel like making lunch the night before to bring to work. Because you're like, okay, I'm broke. I can't be buying that. It's the power of broke. It makes you just more frugal and making better decisions. These two birds just flew right by. Should I try and flip it? Nah. They'll fly away as soon as they fly. Yeah, sure enough, they flew away. But the power of broke is that you think like, okay, I need to save every penny I have and make the absolute most of it. And that's how most people have gone from the bottom to the top. And again, I'm not saying it's super easy. You're like, oh yeah, just save money and invest. Yeah, no problem. No, you obviously have to work hard. But again, that's a mindset of being broke. Like, okay, I'm broke. I need to work my ass off to get to where I want to be. So it's the power of broke. That's the concept of the book, and he talks about that's how he went about it. Like essentially, like one part about it that I remember was he said all of his friends were getting old enough to buy a car, and they were all like looking, oh, it's the best used car I could have because he grew up in like just a poor neighborhood, and he was like, nah, like I gotta sell. What's his brand? Fubo, I think that's what it was. I have to sell my clothes. I need to buy a minivan. And they all laughed and like, what is wrong with you? And he would also like bust people around on the side, stuff like that. So the power of broke is it makes you a hustler. And I think that's really a great concept that I've took with me since I read that book. And saying this out loud, I got to start reading books again. Also, just to try and fix my attention span. I feel like everyone's attention span is horrible. And I can definitely tell you of all young individuals right now, it's scary. It's really scary. Especially you see my brother and like my cousins who are a little bit younger than me. These kids coming up just out of high school and stuff, like they can't even like have a conversation without being like swiping on the side. It's like too boring to just talk to someone. They have to like be swiping shorts at the same time. Like it's insane. Like it's actually crazy. But that's the world we live in, and you got to do what's best for you, right? And you got to just keep building yourself up and execute on the power of broke. And it doesn't mean like, oh yeah, like I guess you could say like poor is a mindset, or I don't know. I think I'm overthinking it, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say here, and that's why I've seen it on both sides where people I know around me and like family where some people have really invested and built themselves up over time, and I've seen how it's helped them a lot get to the next like make retirement easier or whatever the case. But on the other side of the coin, I've seen it where they're really struggling day to day, still having to work at like an older age, etc. Right, family, friends of family, etc. And just talking to people, right? Because I just like talking to people and learning about things and hearing about people's life experiences. A lot of the people who weren't fortunate enough to be informed that like a 401k is extremely important and like investing is extremely important in the long term. Even if you're not going to do individual investing, at least contribute to your 401k. You have to do that. And I've seen it where people just didn't. They just think it. No one ever told them how important it was, and that's part of the reason I'm so passionate about talking about investing and wealth building, is because I've seen the difference it can make on a long-term scale, and that's also why I focus on investing over trading. I think trading's a day-to-day thing. I think investing is just something you have to put a little bit of time into. And okay, fine, you don't want to put in a lot. You don't really want to put time into it. Just take the time to understand the S&P 500 and put some money into it consistently. Historically speaking, it always goes up, right? And of course, there's always going to be down years and down periods of time, but that's why you buy consistently, and that's why you have a long-term viewpoint. And again, this is just all what I think. You have to figure out what's best for you as an individual, but don't just do nothing. Like get out there and take time to learn. And especially with all this AI stuff right now, not saying, like, let me be perfectly clear. do not blindly invest what you learn from AI. But like if you read about it, you're reading, okay, what is the S&P 500? There's a word in there in the explanation you don't understand. It's like, oh yeah, like, and I'm even saying dollar cost averaging. Like, what does that mean? You could be like, Chat GPT, what is dollar cost averaging? And it gives you a pretty distinct answer and just makes you more educated. And even how I'm using AI, like day to day, sometimes at work, I go to send an email, like, I don't think that sounds that good. Like Chat GPT, grammar correct and improve. And I'll put it in and it'll spit it back out slightly different. And I don't just blindly copy the email and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's probably a better word here. When I'm saying in the email, like, or you could do this, the Chat GPT would tell me, alternatively, you could go with this method. And that just sounds so much more professional and clear and concise. So that's how I use AI. I think a lot of people think AI is like, oh yeah, it's just gonna start doing everything. And like maybe it will one day. And AI is the coolest, scariest shit at the same time. I always say that. Like I love the AI image generators, and the example I just gave, like that's I think a great use case for it, and it's honestly helped me become a better writer with my emails and anything I put out, because I start thinking like, oh no, if I put this in ChatGPT, it's going to say alternatively, in rather than or they could do this. Like it's just the small stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, there's never been more access than ever before in all of human history to learn the basics of investing and wealth building. I know I've gone on a complete tangent here, and you might be clicking on this right now, like how is this guy talking about building wealth and safe long-term investing when he's investing in GameStop? You got to know what you're investing in. That's the bottom line. I understand what I have with GameStop. I understand the risks. I understand the potential rewards. And if you don't, that's all right. Take some time to learn. You don't have to rush. Take your time. That's definitely the best advice I could give. Take your time to learn investing and wealth building. It's so, so important. And your future self will thank you for it. Trust me. And let me hit the chat because I've just been ranting away here. But no shares will be milled. Balaka, go to the site. Let's fucking go. Meagle, thanks for being here. I didn't see the interview gamers talking about a GameStop affiliation at Ripple. I'm still doing research. All good, Alina. All good, no worries. I know you're just throwing it out there. And yeah, I mean, I'll look into it, but I'm not sure anything's going to come of that, but we'll have to see. Diamond Hands did that for me. Exactly, Marantz. Exactly. Diamond Hands is the way. People joke around like, oh, yeah, they're always saying like Diamond Hands, but like, it's true. Anything you invest in, you should have Diamond Hands. Like, I have Diamond Hands with Bitcoin because I believe in it for the long term. And for me, it's risk versus reward. I'm going to either ride it out forever and it's going to be worth nothing. Fine, I can accept that. I can live with it. I'm not going to put in more than I can afford to lose. That's the other huge aspect. Never, ever, ever put in more than you can afford to lose. You should always have an emergency savings. You should always pay off any bad debt. Any bad debt is any high interest debt, any credit card debt, anything like that. You got to pay it off. That's number one, I think, before you start investing. And I'm very fortunate. I went to a college that wasn't too expensive, and I have one loan outstanding. That's the only thing. And guess what? It's a federal loan, and it's a 2.5% interest rate. I have the full amount that the loan is, right? Like I could pay off the loan tomorrow or today, right? If I truly wanted. But the loan's interest rate is 2.5%. I have that amount that the loan is in a high yield savings earning me 5%. So essentially that's good debt because I'm earning 5% and it's accumulating debt at a 2.5% rate. So in the long run, I'm gaining more than I'm paying essentially. So yes, I'm going to keep making my monthly payments. And if it ever gets to a point, interest rates get dramatically cut, although I think what's going on right now, that's not going to be the case. If interest rates got dramatically cut and all of a sudden I can only earn 1% in a high yield savings, okay, I'm just going to pay off my debt like that. No problem. But if I had a credit card that was overdue, I would hop on that first, which again, I'm very fortunate to have the education and knowledge that you got to be really, really careful with credit cards. That was stressing me with my parents at a young age. I'm very thankful for that. A credit card's like a knife. If it's a great tool if you know how to use it. If you don't, you cut yourself, right? That's the simplest way to put it. But also, I had a Discover loan for my student debt that I paid off a couple of years ago, and originally I was just paying minimum. I was like, wait, I have to pay this off right away because this is a ridiculous 10% rate. I have to be earning 10% or more, otherwise I'm being burned by this. And then when you're going to try and earn 10% or more, you're fighting a very uphill battle. And then if you lose because you're making more aggressive moves, now you still own 10% interest on your debt and your original money that you have is falling, right? So it's just like all these concepts you got to grasp over time. And again, I'm not saying I'm this like professional or super expert, but again, I'm just taking you on my investment journey and just taking things brick by brick, just like GameStop. Proposal 4 is a no. Couldn't agree more, Lena. Your words, not mine, but I couldn't agree more. Margin for the win. I'm John Lacey, guys. That's my crazy friend. I'm John Lacey in the chat. Bro. I talked about you before. I was like, this guy, yo, he just was trading at GameStop. I'm happy for you. They made money, brother. But at the same time, I think long term's the way, brother. I think long term's the way. You know, I've told you that a million times. At margin, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. But I know, you do your own thing. You got your own systems. I believe in you, man. Don't get me wrong. But again, I'm just always sharing what I think, and I'm happy, that you made money. Don't get me wrong. I'm always happy to see people make money. Hey, what's up, Fresh Maker? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you popping in on this fine Friday afternoon. I know you're probably like, yo, dang, this guy Tetron's live. It's Friday afternoon. What's going on? I was like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I got a little time. Got to run a quick stream. Although I'm probably going to wrap up about 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. I'm just waiting on someone to get back to me about what's going on for later. But speaking of investing, what are your thoughts on the Bitcoin ETFs, specifically FBTC? Emmanuel, thanks for being here. Michael, great question. With Bitcoin ETFs, I'm skeptical, right? I think it's a great tool if you want to invest in your IRA. There are something called self-directed IRAs, if you're not familiar though, where you can actually invest in Bitcoin directly. You basically have a custodian and they allow you to purchase the crypto and alternative assets. Some people do gold, some people do real estate, some people do private equity, right? Through something called the self-directed IRA. So theoretically, yes, you can buy Bitcoin in an IRA. However, there's custodial fees that come with that, whether it be quarterly, annually, and they usually charge you per transaction. Whereas if you have an IRA with Fidelity, there's no fees at all. And yes, if you buy a Bitcoin ETF, there is a management fee, but I think it's a good tool for retirement accounts and also any money, theoretically, right, flowing into ETFs is flowing into Bitcoin. And then if you're a mutual fund, maybe you want to have 1% of the fund being the alternative asset that is Bitcoin, and then maybe that mutual fund also has another alternative asset, which is gold, silver, and maybe it's even an alternative asset mutual fund, something like that. They can have exposure to that without actually buying Bitcoin by buying the ETFs. So I think that's interesting, and ultimately it's going to bring a lot of big money flowing into it. However, where I'm skeptical is anything in the stock market, as I've learned these past couple of years, a lot of strange stuff happens sometimes. A lot of shady things in some cases, whether it be with market makers, institutions, and even when they do get in trouble, what do they get? Slap on the wrist. That's it. They don't get a smack across the face. They get a slap on the wrist and they do it again. To them, it's just a cost of doing business. So with that being said, I personally choose to hold Bitcoin as itself, like in a cold wallet. I think that's the most secure way, the best way to go about it. But again, I think it's a great tool in some aspects, and it could bring in more money into Bitcoin. It seems like it is. But again, anything with the markets and just the nature of them and the things I've learned and how things work behind the scenes, it's all really just numbers on the screen. That's kind of the craziest part. And I understand with Bitcoin, people say, oh, it could just disappear out of nowhere, and I just don't think that's the case. I think whoever Satoshi is understood great power comes great responsibility, and disappeared and just chose to never touch Bitcoin again and understand like it's something that could be put in place, and once it's in place, it's a self-operating system forever. And that's why the halvings are there. And I've said in the past accidentally, I was saying Bitcoin's deflationary, but it's not. It's disinflationary. Its inflation rate is decreasing. So every time Bitcoin halves, half as much Bitcoin is being mined each day. So half as much Bitcoin is being created each day. I think last I saw it's approximately a 0.86% inflation rate for Bitcoin, if you consider how much Bitcoin is being created per day on a yearly basis, where we're at currently. When it halves next time, then it would be at about 0.04 or something, right? So it keeps getting less and less. Less and less is being created over time. What do we see happening with the dollar? The dollar keeps being printed. We keep overspending, right? Whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they all overspend, right? They all overspend. This country, United States of America, where I live, has run a deficit for 25 years now or so. So as long as the government's overspending, running a deficit, which, if you're not familiar, a deficit essentially means spending more than the amount of taxes that are being brought in. So if you're running a deficit, what do you have to do when you have a deficit? You have to print more money. And now in a high interest rate environment, you have to print more money, and you have to, issue it. Like how they actually get the money is the T-bills and treasury bonds, right? Essentially government debt. So they're issuing government debt. And now at a higher interest rate, like federal funds rate, it has to be issued at higher and higher rates. And if you're paying off old debt that's coming to maturity, you're paying debt that's coming to mature that was issued when interest rates were like 1% for a very long time, or 0%, so like next to nothing. And now it's going to be at 5%, so that's just going to accelerate it more. And on top of it, we just send money everywhere for everything, spend, 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 spend. And on top of it, turning a deficit, it's just like there's also no signs of it stopping. It's just the dollar is losing purchasing power, and the dollar is supposed to be the world reserve currency. So on top of it, all these other countries, their currency's getting screwed. And some of them are starting to say, and that's where you see this BRICS thing happening. Although I'm not sure much is going to come with that, and that's a whole other conversation itself. And I'm still wrapping my head around that. Like I said, it's my investment journey, learning more and more as time goes on. You got to understand, it's no matter what you think, or whether you believe in Bitcoin or not, what is true is that the dollar's purchasing power is, excuse me, damn pollen, is decreased. I'm surprised it's the first time I coughed all stream. This freaking pollen's so annoying. But the purchasing power is just depleting of the dollar. And unless something dramatic changes, I don't see that getting any better. I see it getting worse because it's just self-fulfilling prophecy unless something dramatic changes. And that's why I personally believe in Bitcoin as a store of value. Again, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but with all this said and what's going on, I see it as really, really important for individuals to own assets. And that's why I talk about wealth building and just owning assets, whether it's GameStop, Bitcoin, real estate, whatever your cup of tea is, just the S&P 500, you gotta own assets because purchasing power is being inflated away. What assets to invest in, that's up to you to determine. You got to do your research. You got to put some time in it. And people say, "Oh, investing's not for me. I don't know. It's so scary." But I'm like, you know what's scarier? That this same coffee cup that I bought for $5 or whatever it was, right? Let's say I bought it for $5 yesterday. In 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it's gonna cost like $8 or $9. That's scarier to me than investing. And that's just where I stand. I understand. People, I want to go to school for finance, this and that, but just take the time to learn. I know it's not easy. I know there's challenges, but you got to take the time to learn. You got to take the time to do the research. And again, I'm taking you on my journey. There's still always more to learn. And yes, maybe you're not going to put as much time into it as someone such as myself who's passionate. And I'm not saying, oh yeah, I put the most time in it. Nobody can be like me. Don't take it like that. I'm saying I care and I have a passion for this stuff, so I do it. I don't look at it as work. I look at it as fun. But even if you don't have a passion for it and you do look at it as work, you gotta allocate some time for it. I really, really do believe that. And it's just like I don't have a passion for like working out or being healthy, but I'm learning more and more. Like, gotta eat better foods. Like, your body is your engine. Like, so you have to eat better foods. You gotta hydrate yourself. You gotta take good care of yourself. It's about longevity. And I'm like, okay, like if I do this investing, how am I not gonna do this for myself? So I'm realizing that more and more. I used to always eat shit like Taco Bell, McDonald's, whatever, eat all the time. Because I'm very fortunate with a fast metabolism. I'm skinny, so I always thought, oh yeah, I'm fine. Everyone's always like, oh yeah, you're so skinny. So I'm like, oh yeah, I could just eat whatever. But I'm like, no, I feel the difference when I eat shit food versus good food. Your body's your engine. And I don't like working out. I know I have some friends that are like total gym rats. They love working out. They're always like, bro, you gotta come to the gym. And listen, I'm not a guy that's really lifting weights, and I'm not saying I'm totally opposed to ever doing it, but what's more important to me is feeling mentally good and physically good. So I've been doing a lot of walking. I've been going for jogs. I'll do some push-ups, some simple stuff. And again, not saying it's anything groundbreaking, but I don't have a passion for doing that. But I'm like, okay, I have to allocate time, especially if I'm not going to go to the gym and lift weights. I have to at least allocate time to be physically active and make sure I'm eating the right foods and just doing the small things right. And I think just the same way, those people that I'm friends with that are gym rats are super passionate about working out. They love the grind. They love eating a bunch of protein, having their protein shakes, pre-workout, whatever it is, right? They don't care about investing. Maybe like, oh, whatever, yeah. But they should put some time into that, just like I should put some time into working out and becoming better physically fit. That's just an example, but can't gamble money you can't afford to lose. Exactly, I'm John Lacey. Exactly. Hoping to buy metals like silver and gold before Bitcoin. You never know if they could steal wallets or hack accounts. That's fair, Lena, but you should definitely look into cold storage. I truly believe cold storage can't be like disturbed in any way because it's completely offline. Yes, if somebody got your wallet key, right? If they got your passphrase or your, if you know how it works, it's basically like 12 to 16 words. That is essentially how you get into the wallet. And to me, that's the most secure way to own it. And with metals, I definitely see the perspective, right? Gold and silver have been around a long time. But where I'm skeptical is I feel like those markets are manipulated in the sense like with the spot pricing and with these depositories, like it just seems like some shady stuff goes on with that. But at the same time, I'm not like totally opposed to it. You've seen gold and silver do pretty well this past year or so. I was just looking actually randomly the other day, like GLD, that's the gold ETF. I could keep an eye on that. It's up about 60 something percent over the past 5 years. I would say that's makes sense relative to the inflation. Like it kind of seems like it's in line with what's happened. Maybe the dollar's lost like half its purchasing power in about 5 years time, right? That seems about roughly accurate. So it's maybe it's a good store of value in that sense. But at the same time, also with Bitcoin, I see it as so many people still don't understand it. So it's an emerging alternative asset class. Oh, physical. Yes, I think physical is definitely the way because at the end of the day, you can hold it and nobody can take it. But at the same time, where I was saying is like the spot prices, they could still kind of manipulate the pricing of it, but nobody could ever physically take it from you. That's definitely absolutely true if you own physical metals. Try BJJ, best bang for your buck for physical and mental workout. All right, now I'll check it out. I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you. Buy physical ed, not ETF. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, dude, it's so funny. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do like a 20-minute stream. I'll just talk for a few minutes. We're like 15 minutes in. I love it, guys. I love it. It's so funny. I'm like, I just start streaming and I don't know, something just switches. I'm just rock and roll. But and I always do this too. I make a coffee. Look how much I've drank of it. It was like not. It was only like halfway full. I mean, I can't show you it, so I was gonna spill. That was a silly thought there. But I never even drink the coffee. I've seen me sip it like twice this whole stream. But you know what? Sounds corny, but remember to touch grass, just do the little things right. And that's also something I'm realizing as I get older and mature more, whether it's investing, being physically fit, anything at all, doing the little things right. Like I'm doing this course right now, I'm getting this certification. It's called the CISP. It's essentially to become like certified IRA account specialist, basically saying that, I'm very, very familiar with IRS guidelines surrounding retirement accounts and IRAs. So I'm doing that right now, and I hate schoolwork. I hated college. I really just anything to do. I just want to get done. I just want to get done and get into the real world, and I'm so thankful to be done now. But this is like a flashback. Oh, I gotta do work. There's weekly coursework. There's a discussion post, and you gotta read about it weekly. And I don't want to do it. I hate it. It's annoying, but I'm doing it anyway. And I'm like, the little things I have to do are just put a little bit of time into it every single week. And then as it's getting closer to this final exam, I'm going to have to put a little bit of time in it every day. And that's going to suck. But I'm going to have to do it. If I want to pass this, I'm going to have to put a little bit of time in every day. It's just about doing the little things right. And also, I used to have the mindset too, where I was like, oh, I need to make a big change. Like, oh, you know what? From now on, I'm just doing this. And I would make just such a big, dramatic change in my life. And then obviously I fail, right? And I'm not scared to say that. You fail if you just try and do a big, dramatic change instantly, right? Because it's about the little thing. When you do the small things right, it gets easier. You don't think so hard about it. It becomes more automatic. And that's why just consistency is key. A coworker of mine, / friend of mine, always says to me it's just like his line. He's just like, building a habit takes 4 weeks. Or I literally should know. He always says it to me. But it's like, and it's true. Building a habit, good or bad, I think it's like 5 weeks or something. And that's based on like some study you saw. But it's true. If you think about it, like any habit you've built, whether good or bad, it didn't just happen overnight. It happened a little more, a little more, and a little more. And if it was bad, you're kind of like, I'm just doing a little more, a little more, a little more. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just doing it. And then all of a sudden, like, it just kind of becomes second nature because you just kind of let yourself go with it. Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And it's kind of the op. And then all of a sudden, you're like, shit, this is a really bad habit. I got to fix this. Whereas the other hand, with a good habit, you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't know. I'll just do it anyway. I'll just do it anyway. I'll just do it anyway. I'll keep doing it. and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm just doing this every day without even thinking about it. Like, so it goes both ways with good and bad habits. It takes time to build them up. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I think I'll pretty much wrap it up here in a couple minutes. Let the chat one more time. But again, if you're like, oh, GameStop's up 30% today, why? No news, no earnings. It's just GameStop being GameStop. And that's why I'm a long-term investor. I dollar cost average because I understand this could happen out of nowhere. And of course, I'm sitting here like, damn, wish I bought more yesterday. Because I bought more yesterday, I'd be in good shape right now, right? But then again, there's always going to be another opportunity to buy more. That's also the thing, too. If you're not invested in GameStop right now and you have some sort of interest, honestly, don't just run and jump in right now. Take some time to really consider, what price point do you want to get into? Do you want a dollar cost average? How are you going to go about it as an individual? It's all about yourself. It's all about doing what's best for you and making your own plan. Everybody is unique in their own ways. So it's really, really important to just do the small things right. Learn yourself too. That's also something I'm realizing as I get older. Like, it's really about understanding who you are and what works for you and what doesn't. And I'm still learning that, right? Like, I'm only 23. I'm about to turn 24, which is crazy to me. It's actually crazy. Like, and you guys might be hearing this like, yo, this guy's so young. What is he saying? But time flies, right? Time flies. And I know I still have a lot more to learn. Like, I'm very humbled by that. Like, I understand. Well, I'm saying I'm learning all these things and I want to share with you guys all these things I'm learning. I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, I got it all figured out now. Like, you guys got to listen to me. No, no, that is not how I am. Not at all. It's simply, this is how I see it. This is what I'm going through, and I'm just documenting my journey. So hopefully you guys continue to see me become a stronger and stronger individual, a better investor. Maybe one day I'll even have muscles. I'll look back at this a few years and be like, damn, what an idiot. You weren't lifting weights, bro. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, I love my little cousin. He's always like, you gotta hit the gym, bro. This guy's the biggest gym rat. I think he's like his first year at college. Like, he loves the fucking gym. He lives and breathes the gym. Like, he loves it. But I love it too that I have someone around me that's like, come on, you got to, bro. Like, I love that, and that's a good thing too. You got to have good people around you, whether you like it or not. You're the average of 5 people you spend your time with the most. So you got to have good people around you so that when you're having a bad day, they lift you up. And then just in general, you're all kind of moving forward together. Like, yes, maybe you're not doing the same exact things. Maybe not everyone I'm friends with is doing a YouTube channel about investing, but we're all trying to better ourselves, get on the grind, get to that next level. And just like GameStop building brick by brick, Tetron's building brick by brick. And it's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. But Wendy, thank you for popping in. I'm so sorry. I'm just about to wrap it up, but I really, really appreciate you popping in. Lena Chow, thank you for your great insights. Lena, thank you for being here. I really hope it helped. Even when I do these, could just help a couple people. Like, I think that's a great thing. And I understand not everything I say is going to stick with everybody, but even just one or two things you hear from me, and maybe it makes you think like, oh yeah, like that. I heard Tetron talk about that. Like, what if I look at this? And then you look into that, and then it brings you down a rabbit hole of something else random that maybe I didn't even talk about at all, but it just got you thinking, right? It's all about thinking and just continuing to better yourself. Just do the little things right. And I completely got away from talking about GameStop since the stream started, but really, I can't thank you guys enough for watching. I'm going to be streaming Monday night, so look out for that. I'm going to try and put out a quick video this weekend as well. If you haven't already, subscribe, drop a like. I love you all. Have a good night and a good weekend.